Imagine for a moment you are in a great train station. You have no ticket in your hand, and yet you are strangely certain that you are meant to board a train. People pass you by, some look hurried, others seem as if they've missed something vital, yet deep within your chest there is a stillness, not of ignorance, but of assurance. You do not know the hour, nor the precise destination, but you know this: you are not meant to stay here forever. There is a curious ache that sits deep in the human soul, one that no accomplishment, relationship, or possession can quite satisfy. Men build empires, gather riches, and pursue knowledge beyond comprehension. And yet a quiet emptiness remains a homesickness, not for a place we've seen, but for a place we somehow remember. This is no accident. It is the mark of eternity stitched into the fabric of our being. We were not designed for temporal permanence, but for eternal purpose. And so when God says, "You're leaving soon," He is not announcing a tragedy, but reminding us of a truth long buried beneath the dust of daily distractions. This world is not our home. The great illusion of modern life is permanence. Advertisements scream for us to own, to settle, to build forever. People work tirelessly to secure stability, to cement their legacies, to attach themselves to things that cannot last. But the earth is not built to contain eternity. It groans, Scripture says, under the weight of its own corruption. The seasons change, empires fall, and even the stars burn out. And yet, we act as if this present age is the destination rather than the journey. We forget that we are travelers passing through a land that was never meant to be our final resting place. What happens when we ignore this truth? We begin to cling to things that decay. We grow anxious when our plans crumble, bitter when life takes unexpected turns, and fearful when death draws near. But all these things lose their sting when viewed through the lens of pilgrimage. The pain of the journey does not surprise a traveler who knows he is on the road. The discomfort of the temporary becomes bearable when one is certain that the permanent is coming. And yet, God does not leave us to wander blindly. He gives us signs, the longing in your heart, that persistent tug for something higher, deeper, more beautiful. That is one of them. It is the echo of Eden and the whisper of heaven. It is the Spirit testifying that you were made for more. The world will tell you to silence that voice with noise and novelty, but God bids you listen, for it speaks of a home being prepared. Every sunset that takes your breath away, every moment of love so pure it brings tears, every act of mercy that defies human instinct, these are glimpses of the kingdom that waits. They are windows into the place where goodness is not fleeting, where beauty is not marred by death, where peace is not interrupted by war or worry. And when you experience these fragments of heaven, something in you sighs, "Yes, this is what I was made for." That voice within is not delusion. It is divine remembrance. Still, not everyone will accept this. There are many who laugh at the thought of another world, another life, as if such hope were childish or escapist. But there is no deeper realism than recognizing that this life, in all its finitude and failure, cannot be the whole story. If we are merely born to die, to rise for a while and be forgotten, then existence is cruel indeed. But if we are born to journey, to be called out, trained, refined, and finally welcomed home, then everything, even suffering, takes on meaning. This is why Christ told his disciples not to fear. This is why Paul could sing in prison, and martyrs could face fire with calm. They knew, they remembered, their eyes were fixed not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. They were not clinging to the station, but waiting for the train. If you feel weary here, that is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awareness. If you ache for more, it does not mean you are ungrateful. It means you are awake. God's whisper to you, "You're leaving soon," is not a threat, but a promise. It is the quiet call to lift your eyes from the dust and look toward the horizon. You were never meant to make this world your home. You were meant to pass through it, to learn what cannot be learned in comfort, and to arrive, at last, where every tear is wiped away and every joy is made full. When Jesus said, "I go to prepare a place for you," he was not speaking in metaphor or poetic sentiment. He meant it quite literally. The words are deeply personal, not abstract. He did not say, "I go to prepare a place for people like you," or a general place for believers. He said, "For you." This is the language of intimacy, of knowledge, of design. It suggests more than just a home. It suggests intention. A place specifically crafted not just to fit your soul, but to fulfill it in ways no earthly location ever could. It is not the result of random grace. It is the architecture of love. Think of the care a parent puts into preparing a room for their child. Every color is chosen with love, every item selected with knowledge of that child's heart, their fears, their hopes, their joys. Multiply that care by eternity, and you begin to glimpse what it means when God says He is preparing a place for you. Not just heaven as a whole, but a place within heaven, with your name written on it. He knows the dreams you've carried, the pain you've endured, the questions you've dared not speak aloud. None of that is lost or forgotten. It is all part of the blueprint. This place is not a generic paradise. It is shaped by your story. Every battle you've fought in silence, every act of obedience no one else saw, every tear shed in prayer. These things do not disappear into the void. They are seeds sown in suffering that will blossom in the presence of God. The place prepared for you is not a reward in the shallow sense, like a prize handed out for good behavior. It is the completion of your story. It is the home you've never seen, but have always longed for. The tragedy is that many think of heaven as something far off, detached, impersonal, a reward system rather than a relational promise. But Scripture never presents it this way. Heaven is not the end of your journey. It is the fulfillment of everything begun in you here on earth. And the place being prepared is not just an eternal shelter. It is where all your questions find resolution, all your wounds find healing, all your love finds its true direction. The great philosopher theologian Augustine once said, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." That restlessness, that ache we carry throughout life, is not a flaw. It is the evidence that something has been prepared. We don't long for things that do not exist. A child hungers not because food is imaginary, but because food is real. So too, the soul's hunger for belonging, for permanence, for joy without decay, points to something that awaits us, a place built with us in mind. If you've ever stood in a place and felt strangely out of place, not because of the people or the setting, but because something deep inside you whispered, "This isn't it," then you've already heard the quiet call of the prepared place. Earth holds beauty, yes, and we are meant to love it in proper proportion. But even the most breathtaking mountain or the most tender human embrace is but a shadow of what is to come. They are good echoes, but they are not the source. It is easy, in this world, to feel invisible, to feel like your story doesn't matter, like your voice goes unheard. But that is not true. The one who knit you together in the womb, who numbers your hairs and tracks your tears, is the same one building a place for you. Your life is not a mistake. Your story is not forgotten. There is a place under construction right now that reflects who you truly are. Not as the world sees you, not even as you see yourself, but as God sees you in fullness and in truth. There are moments when this promise seems too much to believe. Can it really be so personal? Can the Creator of the galaxies really care for the details of one soul's dwelling? And yet the cross itself answers the question. A God who would die for you would not hesitate to prepare a place for you. He doesn't save you to keep you at a distance. He saves you to bring you home. This is why the prepared place is not just a reward, but a reunion. It is where the fragment finally meets the whole. It is where the child finally sees the father's face without fear. It is where every moment of obedience, every step of faith, every silent prayer finds its meaning. The place is real. It is readying, and it is waiting for you. The world is loud with promises. It speaks in the voice of advertisements, ambitions, and applause, urging us to build our lives here, to root our identities in things we can touch and count and spend. It offers us comfort, and at times we take it. We find peace in friendships, pleasure in beauty, and meaning in our work. But however good these things may be, they never satisfy for long. The comfort they offer is temporary, fragile, always just a step away from disappointment or loss. That's because what the world offers is not completion, it is distraction. It gives us shadows of what we long for, but never the substance. The world tells you to chase success, but when you catch it, your soul is still hungry. It invites you to indulge in pleasure, but once the thrill passes, you are left emptier than before. It hands you a crown and convinces you that it means power or worth, but it rusts in your hands the moment real suffering arrives. This isn't because life is meaningless. It's because the meaning is misplaced. The soul is not satisfied by temporary comfort because it was not created for it. It was created for completion found in the presence of the one who made it. Heaven is not the consolation prize for enduring hardship on earth. It is the fulfillment of a story that began before you were born. The final act where everything broken is restored, everything lost is found, everything confused is made clear. It is not the escape hatch from reality, it is the arrival into reality, the one you've longed for but couldn't name. Here on earth, we experience joy that fades, love that falters, peace that is interrupted. In heaven, these things are not just preserved, they are perfected. That is completion. That is what the heart craves in the deepest places. The comfort the world gives is often a counterfeit. It numbs, it distracts, it delays. It whispers, "You're fine as you are," even as the soul quietly aches with the sense that something essential is still missing. The world teaches us to ignore that ache, to fill it with consumption or applause. But heaven does not numb. It heals, it does not distract, it reveals. In heaven, the ache does not merely go away, it becomes joy. The longing is not ignored, it is fulfilled. This is why those who know God do not envy the comfort of those who live only for this world. Comfort without purpose is hollow, pleasure without truth is poison, but a soul that waits in hope, that endures in love, that walks by faith instead of sight, that soul is not being denied comfort. It is being prepared for completion. The Christian life is not one of denying joy, but of learning to recognize where true joy lies. Not in what can be taken, but in what has been promised. Not in what fades, but in what remains. We are tempted every day to believe that heaven is distant and vague, and that the here and now is all that matters. But that is a lie dressed in urgency. Heaven is not a vague reward. It is more real than anything you see now. What you see is temporary. What you do not see is eternal. What you feel now may seem overwhelming, but it is light and momentary compared to the weight of glory to come. That is not poetry, it is promise. You are not being asked to endure for endurance's sake. You are being refined, prepared, transformed for a world where sorrow is a memory and joy is the air you breathe. And yet, the world will continue to offer comfort. It will ask you to trade eternal completion for temporary relief. It will tempt you to build your identity on things that will turn to dust. But every trial, every suffering, every waiting moment reminds you of this truth. The best is not behind you or even beside you. It is ahead. You are not missing out. You are pressing forward. And every good thing you experience here is just a glimpse of what is coming. The most beautiful sunset, the deepest laugh, the purest act of love. these are not the destination. They are the signs along the road pointing you home. Completion is not when the pain ends or the applause begins. Completion is when you stand in the presence of the one who knows you fully and still loves you completely. It is when the fragmented parts of you are made whole, and the pieces you never understood finally fit. The world offers comfort, but heaven offers that, completion, and it is coming. When a traveler knows he is about to depart, he does not spend time redecorating the waiting room. He checks his bags, watches the clock, and listens closely for the call to board. In much the same way, the one who knows that this life is not permanent begins to live differently. The knowledge that we are leaving soon, as God says, is not meant to fill us with fear, but to clarify our priorities. It is not a message of doom. It is a divine prompting to live awake, with eyes turned upward and heart attuned to eternity. To live like one who's already been called home is not to abandon life on earth, nor to despise its blessings. Rather, it is to live with a purposeful detachment, a holy perspective that refuses to treat the temporary as ultimate. It is the choice to forgive even when it hurts, to love when it's inconvenient, to serve when no one notices because you are not investing in this moment, but in the one that lasts forever. The currency of heaven is not comfort or reputation. It is faith, obedience, and love. Such a life is radical in a world that idolizes the self. The culture says, make your mark, secure your legacy, protect your comfort. But the citizen of heaven says, let me decrease so Christ may increase. Let me lose my life to find it. This kind of life confuses the world. Why would you give when you could keep? Why forgive when you could resent? Why stay humble when you could demand recognition? The answer is simple. Because we know we're leaving. Because the things that seem to matter most now will matter not at all when we finally step into the place God has prepared for us. Living as one already called home also means living without fear. If the worst the world can offer is death, and death has already been defeated, then what is there to be afraid of? The Christian does not fear judgment because judgment has been satisfied. He does not fear loss because nothing eternal can ever be taken. He does not fear obscurity because his name is known in heaven. This is why martyrs sang, why saints endured, and why true believers still today live with a joy the world cannot explain. They know this life is not the end of the story. It is only the preface. To live with this perspective also frees us from comparison. There is no need to compete when your reward is secure. You can celebrate another's success without envy because your inheritance is not at risk. You can suffer without despair because you know that your suffering is producing something eternal, something glorious. Every difficulty becomes a refining fire, every trial a tutor in faith, every act of endurance a testimony written in eternity's ink. Nothing is wasted, nothing is forgotten. This way of living also calls us to urgency, not anxiety, but urgency. There are people around us still clinging to the illusion that this world is all there is. They live in fear, in distraction, in chains they don't even recognize. And you, because you know the truth, are called to live in such a way that your life becomes a signpost pointing toward the kingdom. You are a light, not because you are flawless, but because you are forgiven. You are not meant to blend in with the darkness, but to pierce it with love and truth. Every moment matters. Every conversation, every gesture, every small act of kindness carries the weight of eternity. And yes, there will be days when this calling feels too heavy, too high. Days when the comforts of the world seem easier to chase. But remember, you are already claimed, you are already named. The place is already being prepared, so you do not live for applause that fades. You do not chase thrones that rust. You live for the voice that will one day say, well done. You live for the day when you will be home. To live like one who's already been called home is not to abandon hope for the world, but to be its clearest picture of hope. It is to live with peace in chaos, purpose in confusion, and joy in sorrow. It is to remind yourself and everyone watching that the best is not yet behind you. It is ahead, and it is coming closer every day.